Welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Reese. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you know that we often talk about forgiveness in the context of relationships, right? Or maybe regret and the stories we carry about our past with ourselves, with other people. But today we're exploring a different kind of relationship, the relationship you have with your own body. Many of us live with chronic illness, pain, fatigue, or physical changes we never expected. And even if that's not your experience right now, probably at some point in life, almost all of us encounter a moment or two when our bodies stop cooperating with the life we thought we were going to live. Today's conversation with you is not about managing your condition, because you've already been doing that. You've learned awareness. You've learned advocacy, because that is something we learn fairly quickly when going through anything chronic. And, by now we've learned how to manage. Today is going deeper. Today is about your relationship with yourself inside your body. This conversation I'm going to share today came out of a group presentation I was able to facilitate. I was honored to facilitate it. And afterwards, I thought I'd like to share some of these thoughts and questions that I shared in this group experience to see if it can add to your journey. So I'd like to start us out with a question, because this podcast is about action, really. It's about really not just listening, but really embodying. The question is, what has been harder for you to carry? The pain itself, or what the pain changed in your life? I know, right? For many people, it isn't just about the pain. It's everything being in what the pain changed. Now, there was a time when my body stopped cooperating with the life I was trying to live. Bottom line. Now, you've heard me share I'd undergone a back fusion, because earlier on, I went through a back fusion, neck fusion, and a brain tumor. But it was this back fusion where something went very wrong in the surgery. And what followed was months, which turned into years actually, of excruciating sciatic pain. My right leg became numb, and eventually it began to atrophy. Suddenly I couldn't do the things that I had been able to do, the long walks, the exercising I'd love to do, playing pickleball, tennis, sitting for any length of time, driving for any length of time, even wearing the shoes that I like to wear. Okay. That may seem a little petty to some, but being able to dress up, and even with small heels, because, wearing large heels, I wasn't able to do, but even the small heels, that was really fun. I had to wear shoes that tied. That was it. Like tennis shoes all the time, because I couldn't hold a shoe on my foot. And a lot of it just became moving through my day that I couldn't do without thinking or being in pain. And for months, I kept going back to the surgeon, the idea was try the medication, this medication, that medication, hoping something would fix it. And one day, she looked at me and said, "It wasn't my fault. You need to go to the physiatrist and figure this out." Just like that, like she was done with me. Now, I want to say a physiatrist is a medical doctor who specializes in physical medicine and rehabilitation. They help restore function, managing pain, right, for patients with chronic illnesses. Those words hit me hard. It's not my fault. You need to go to the physiatrist and you need to figure this out. Those words echoed in my mind. And they stuck with me. I mean, I was devastated. because underneath all the pain, the physical pain, and going to all these different appointments, because I was trying to do it holistically too. So I'm doing not only Western medicine, but I'm doing holistic and metaphysical, just trying everything. There was another story that was going on. I was already telling myself, my body is broken. Maybe I'm broken. And then maybe somehow I created this, almost like it was a punishment, like I deserved punishment. And this went on for a while. And one day I realized something. It was like, have you ever had those ahas, like that when we have an important feeling or a thought that just lands differently than we've had it land before? It's almost like we embody it, not just in our head, but in our bodies, one of those feelings. And this is what landed. I had been looking to everyone outside of me to fix me. The doctors, the treatments, the experts. Because remember, I felt broken. I felt betrayed by my body. But it was in that moment that something shifted for me. Now, it seems simple, yet it wasn't easy to arrive at. And that was, my healing isn't about someone fixing me. This is about learning to work in partnership with my body. And the other thought was, instead of looking to them to fix me, maybe I'm supposed to work in partnership with those people who had a little bit more expertise so they can help me to care for my body. Now, do you feel the difference? Fixing versus working in partnership with other people to care for my body. This brings the control or the power back to me. I was giving the power away to who I thought was an expert. Now, this shows up in all different areas of my life, right? But I digress. But, you feel the difference, right? So quite a few of us are dealing with different chronic issues. So I know many of you understand what it's like to live with a body that no longer follows the rules you once relied on. And what I discovered during that time is that when our bodies change in ways we didn't expect, something else often begins happening inside our mind. And this is what I call the courtroom inside the mind. Okay, so without realizing it, many of us begin holding a kind of courtroom inside our head. Okay, meaning that there are different voices inside this courtroom. And the way I like to describe it with my clients is we have the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, defense attorney, the victim, the witnesses, the perpetrator, all trying to be heard. Okay, that's kind of crowded, right? Now, a big one is the judge. The judge decides whether we're strong enough, disciplined enough, or we're doing things the right way or the right things. Okay. Then there's the prosecutor. The prosecutor lists all the evidence of what went wrong, right? You should have taken better care of yourself. You pushed too hard. Why can't your body just work right? Okay. Then we got the defense attorney. Now the defense attorney's in there trying to explain, well, I tried. I didn't know. I'm doing the best I can. Right. So there's trying to get some understanding in there. But then there's the jury. The jury is the internal decision maker about your worth. I'm failing. I'm going to always be like this. No one will want me. I'm broken. I'm letting everyone down. And sometimes the verdict from this jury is, I just need to try harder. Now, you can feel that, right? That's a lot going on. Now, while this trial is happening, or this entire courtroom is happening inside our mind, our body is just simply trying to communicate with us. That's all. Now, one of the reasons this courtroom becomes so active is because chronic illness and physical change bring losses that we rarely talk about. In my work, I often see what I call the 3 invisible griefs. So, like grieving. Now, the first invisible grief is lost capacity. An example of this is you find yourself saying, I used to be able to blank. For me, is what I mentioned before. Take long walks, go for longer drives, show up for friends, right? Go do things. Even in wearing those darn cute shoes. That's a grief. And it's important. The second invisible grief is identity disruption. Now, an example of this can be, who am I now if I can't perform the roles that I used to or that I valued? What if I can't show up the way I used to, or I can't show up the way I used to? Like we can't show up for our kids, for the games, for school events, or we can't show up for our spouse or our partner, and that causes a rift in the relationship. We can't show up at work, so we're absent more. We can't do the group things we used to or hang out with friends because of our chronic pain or chronic illness. These are valid griefs, this identity disruption. And then the third invisible grief is relationship shame. So along with not being able to show up, like we just talked about, there's the shame of canceling the plans because you don't have enough energy. There's needing help when you've always been independent. That's huge. Feeling unreliable for yourself or for others. And sometimes we have the feelings of being useless or feeling powerless or feeling like, who am I now? And it's usually not a good feeling. So I'd like to invite you to pause for a moment and reflect. What version of yourself do you miss the most? For me, it was the active me, the one who took charge of things and could follow through. Right? What is that for you? Another reflection is there anywhere you still judge yourself for not being who you used to be? All right, let's be honest with ourselves, really. I'm encouraging you to be. Because some of us, we've all done work. Some people are still stuck in the courtroom. Some people have learned, to be able to have some ways to manage. But in the beginning, I had so much judgment to work through. And we're going to talk about how to start not being judgmental. But it was crazy how much judgment I had when I stopped and listened. Yeah. And then I had going through menopause, which had me revisiting some of these same feelings, like my body's broken. It's not working with me. So I got to revisit the shame and the guilt. And who was I before? So I would just like you to notice what comes up for you just in hearing those questions or reflecting on them. Now, because this is exactly where forgiveness becomes so important. There are 3 areas that I notice that come up with self-forgiveness around the body. The first area is forgiving the body itself. So some of the beliefs can be like we've mentioned, my body failed me. I'll never be able to do what I used to do. My body is broken. I'm broken. And in the forgiveness work, I really like using reframes. And I know you've probably heard that phrase, but a reframe, it's not necessarily an affirmation, even though it kind of can be or turn into one. But a reframe is taking a look at, is this thought true? and what could be like an opposite of it, like a reframe. So if I feel like my body betrayed me, maybe I am willing to go, maybe my body didn't betray me. Maybe my body is giving me information. See, that's a reframe. Now, you don't have to force a belief like that. That doesn't resonate. We can also add to that and say, and I am willing to believe that my body is giving me information. Okay. Because sometimes when we gently try on a different perspective, it can open up space for compassion that we're going to talk about in just a moment. Now, the second area is forgiving yourself. So the first is forgiving your body. The second area is forgiving yourself. Now, this is a place we often need it the most, right? So some thoughts around this can be, I should have taken better care of myself. I caused this. Oh God, I pushed too hard. My partner left because I'm damaged somehow, right? We get caught in this self-blame. Did you know that self-blame gives us the illusion of control? Yeah. Because if we believe something is our fault, then a part of us believes we should have been able to prevent it. That's really strange, right? But that belief can feel easier than admitting something deeper. And that is that some things about our bodies are unpredictable. Or admitting that something or things happened earlier on in life that's not our fault. Yet a part of us believes that it is. And it's hung on to that, right? Which shows up in stuck energy or stories in our mind. Again, this is this illusion of control, a part of me that believes it's my fault. Letting go of self-blame doesn't mean giving up responsibility for caring for yourself. It's a different perspective when we can let go of self-blame, because letting go of self-blame simply means you stop punishing yourself for having a human body. Some things are unpredictable. And then some things we can control. Now, the third area is a big one, and that's forgiving reality or life itself. So sometimes forgiveness is needed in a larger direction, okay, towards the medical system or the doctor, like I got to work through, towards timing, towards aging, towards that unpredictability. And a lot of times, what we are really forgiving in all of those instances is the life we thought we were guaranteed. Let's take a breath on that one. You know, I don't know about you, but a part of me thought life was supposed to be easier. Like it's supposed to be easy. I don't know where I got that from. I guess it was fantasy thinking, but I don't know. Do you relate to that? Because when I was going through hard things, even though I've always kind of had a belief that there is a reason for things happening, I didn't expect some of these things, right? It's like, wait, I thought it was supposed to, I'm doing all the right stuff. I thought it was supposed to be easier. Okay. So I kind of had a belief that this isn't the life that I thought I was supposed to have. So I'd like you, if that resonates, I'd like you to reflect on another question. And I mentioned it just a minute ago, the expectation. So what expectation about your life have you had to let go of? Yeah. I want you to just notice what comes up. Let's take another breath, because I feel that one. For me, it was around being as active as I was before, because the right leg became so weak and because of the nerve damage that happened. I didn't know what was going to happen with my leg. And that in itself changed the identity I had of myself as being the active one. That's an identity. Being able to go for long walks or enjoy other group activities. There's things that I couldn't do. And this, of course, goes back to the grieving that I mentioned earlier. So what expectation about your life have you had to let go of? The women have shared with me that the expectations they had to let go of a lot of times around relationships. The loss of a relationship, friendship, romantic, because they didn't understand what the woman was going through. And they've also shared with me that they lost the ability to work. And that really had them, the expectation that they were giving back really helped fulfill them. They had to give up a dream. They wanted to feel like a contribution. And they felt that they were no longer able to do that. So let's take another breath for good measure, because that's a big one. Now, I'd like to return to the courtroom, because when those losses, like I just talked about, happen, the courtroom inside the mind gets louder, right? So imagine the courtroom inside your mind, right? We've got the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, defense attorney, all the peeps. So take a moment and just kind of go, what does my judge say about my body or just about me? Because my judge can be vicious. I don't know about you, but my judge can be very judgmental about how I look, how much I weigh, age, what I'm not able to do. Yeah. What does your judge say? And then what accusations does your prosecutor bring? Right? Or what does your defense attorney say? Or that verdict? Mine was I had to keep going to appointments. Right? I had to keep looking for someone to fix me, which was a story that I carried from childhood, as I discovered through the forgiveness work. Now, when people do this exercise, they often notice something interesting. Now, there are a lot of voices in this courtroom, right? But what we notice is one voice is usually missing: the voice of compassion. Compassion doesn't accuse. It doesn't judge. Compassion simply says, of course this is hard. Your body's been carrying a lot. Hey, we're learning how to do this together. So I want to ask you something. We hear those other voices pretty loudly, but what might compassion say to your body right now? Just planting a seed. One of the ways I help people invite compassion into their relationship with their body is through something I call a compassionate body journal. The journal includes 3 simple questions. What is my body experiencing right now? Being totally honest, pain, anything, right? What is my mind saying about all of that? Now that's all those crazy voices. And then what might compassion say instead? Now I know this can be hard, because when we're used to listening to the judge and all those voices, compassion can be quiet. So we really have to learn to tune in. Because what we do in this simple practice, it allows compassion to enter the courtroom and to soften all the other voices. I have a download for you about this, along with the courtroom inside your mind and the body forgiveness letter. So you're going to find those, the link for those in the show notes. Now, another shift that often happens over time is how we relate to our body. So I want to share these 3 stages and see if you can notice where you're at right now, because we move through these 3. Stage 1 is fighting the body. Now, this can look like pushing, fixing, comparing, demanding, going to all the appointments, trying to get other people to fix me. That's mine, right? And the questions underneath it is always like, why aren't you working right? Mine was, what am I doing wrong? That was a big one for me. Instead of listening, I was really trying hard to fix it. Stage 2 is negotiation. So this is where we learn to soften a bit. We learn to ask for help, and we realize that it's not a weakness, right? We're willing to reframe that. We start learning coping skills. We begin managing our thoughts better. We create systems that support our body, right? This is a stage that can be really incredibly helpful. And then stage 3 is what I call partnership. Partnership is where something new begins to emerge. Instead of forcing, we begin listening. Instead of guilt, we set boundaries, right? Which is what I'm available for and not available for. And then we are able to realize that we have needs, and it's okay. And as a colleague, Tammy Stackelhouse, who I interviewed on the podcast, shares, needs become facts rather than failures. Because how many of us, in all honesty, feel like our needs, 1, sometimes we don't even know what they are, but 2, feel like a need is a weakness. Ouch, right? I did. Once we can do that, when we get to the partnership stage, we begin to feel something different. We begin to feel like, hey, my body and I are on the same team. We're on the same page. Maybe we're working together. Partnership doesn't mean the pain disappears. What it means is the body is no longer the enemy. It becomes a relationship we're learning to understand. Now, that was a lot. And before we finish today, I want to invite you into a little brief couple moments of reflection. If you are in a safe space to do so, not driving or engaged in other activities, because this is going to take some listening. It's not long. It's not hard. So what I'd like you to do when you're able to do so is place a hand somewhere on your body, right? Your heart, your chest, your stomach, your leg, anywhere, because what that does is it helps us be here. Because I don't know about you, when being in chronic pain, I don't want to be in the body, right? So whenever we do any of the senses, it really helps us to be here. So place your hands somewhere on the body and take a slow breath, right? This also helps us. Breathing, it's amazing. Learning to breathe instead of holding your breath, like I've learned to do. So take a slow breath. And I'd like you to hear me for a second. Many of us are used to asking our bodies the same question over and over again. What's wrong with you? Why won't you work right? Whatever that question is for you. But today I want to invite a different question. Instead of asking what's wrong, I would like you to gently ask your body, what are you protecting me from? Your body has been working very hard for you, even when it doesn't feel like it. And sometimes the first step toward forgiveness is simply acknowledging that. What are you protecting me from? Sometimes you'll get an answer. Sometimes you'll get a memory pop up. Sometimes you'll get a feeling. Or sometimes nothing comes. And that's okay. We can encourage our body, though, during this time by quietly saying to it, body, I'm sorry for, and fill in the blank. I'm sorry for neglecting you. I'm sorry for pushing you. I am really sorry for not listening to you. Or it can be, body, thank you for, and then blank. Maybe keeping me moving or giving me information or always being there. Or it can be, body, I'm willing to listen to you about. It can be as simple as whatever you have to tell me. Any stories that you're ready to let go of. Or I'm willing to listen to you about, what do you need? This isn't about solving anything right now. Just notice what it feels to be on the same side as your body. Just notice. Taking another slow breath in and out. And when you're ready, gently return your attention to the room you're in or wherever you may be. Thank you for doing that with me. I'd like to leave you with one final reflection. Actually, question, and then a reflection. What might change in your life as you begin partnering with your body and really with your whole self, really? What might change in your life if you start listening? Would you be softer, kinder? Would you be able to be willing to not blame yourself so much? Would the judging voice be quieter and the voice of compassion be a little louder? Would you be able to let go of the guilt that you carry for having something be wrong with you? Maybe be in a little bit more acceptance and find a little bit more joy? Maybe? I don't know. What might change in your life as you begin partnering with your body? Now, in closing, I like to remind my friend that self-forgiveness isn't pretending you're not in pain, whether that be physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. It's choosing partnership over punishment. Forgiveness begins the moment we decide to stand on the same side as ourselves. And as a reminder, if you'd like to go deeper with this practice, I've created a few reflection worksheets for you. The Compassionate Body Journal, a Body Forgiveness Letter, and the Courtroom Inside the Mind exercise. And you're going to find that link in the show notes. And could you do me a favor? And if today's episode resonated with you, would you share it with someone that may need to hear it? Thank you. And please remember, you're not broken. You're human. And forgiveness begins with coming back to yourself. Until next time, take care. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.